Welcome to the Garden of Rose. My name is Cécile Masson, and I'm the author of Rose, Letters of Love to Life. I'm a generative leadership coach and advisor. I'm very happy to welcome Louis Bohtlingk into the Garden of Rose. Louis, welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I'm Louis. I live with my beautiful wife, Sandra, in Scotland. She is English and I am Dutch. And yeah, I don't know how we met Cécile, but it was a few years ago. And of course, I also looked at her book and was really moved by it. The beginning of this year, I started a magazine, Care First World. And yeah, I think Cécile got quite inspired by it, especially by volume 2, and wanted to interview me about it and why I'm doing this, what the purpose of it all is.
That's very true, Louis, because in the Garden of Rose, we do have a community that inspires each other, but also inspire other people that are following a course or people that just read a book or order a set of cards. And in your case, it's a magazine, Care First World, and it's an amazing initiative, I thought, from the start, once you start to talk about it. And that's not that long ago, is it? It's only just about a year ago. And I thought this resonates very much with the purpose of the Garden of Rose, which is based on obviously 3 pillars, which is letters, anything to do with knowledge, love, very much linked with care, and life itself. And in care first, you put love and care right at the center of everything, also in business. So how do you imagine it to evolve?
Well, the interesting thing was when you talk about Care First, Cécile, that was an inspiration that came to me at the end of the 90s. Sandra and I started an intuitive counseling practice in 1983. And so we were just assisting people with life questions and issues. And in the 80s, I began to realize how much was going on in relationship to money on the positive and on the very difficult side of life. And there was something in me that felt inwardly called to really look at money and ask myself how we could let money be a true servant to the things that we all aspire to. So an inspiration came to me at the end of the 90s called Care First, where I saw that when you look at money, it's always good to look at care at the same time and ask yourself who leads the way. Does money lead the way at the expense of what we care about, which we call money first? Or does care lead the way where money serves the care or serves the well-being of people and the planet? And we called that Care First. So the term Care First was born in relationship to directing the use of money in a much more sane manner. But of course, when you say care first, it applies to everything. We've been doing workshops to assist people exploring their relationship to money. So while we're working on the money, a lot of people started going towards self-care first, where we are so naturally there for others and give love to other people. For a lot of us, it can be more difficult, almost like having a blind spot, to let that love come towards ourselves. And we call that self-care first. So the Care First thing has inspired thousands of people really for a long time. But in February this year, there was something where I thought, would it be possible to communicate Care First? And also in the last years, I was getting very conscious about heart intelligence, which is something that I really love. It's like how the heart feels and thinks, how the heart guides the head. So there was an idea, how can we bring these things that are of real value and can really help humanity and communicate it in a way so that elderly people, children, a much greater audience likes to read it and can take it in. So that was the idea. And then when I started it in February, I I can't say I was taken over, but something was just coming into me and I began to play. I never created a magazine. I love color, so I found this program Canva. I began to create pages with colors, with design. And so this magazine came out that feels really beautiful, looks really beautiful, and communicates whatever message we have in a, yeah, really on all levels of ourselves, through humor, through color, through space. And the intention was to see how people who never have heard about our kind of work would respond to that magazine. And we live here in a small fishing village in Kies, where most people never heard of this kind of work. And it was received really well. So we've been really happy with that. That was volume 1 that came out in June. And then we started creating volume 2, which grounded volume 1 a little bit more through all kinds of stories of people who are working with Care First or have experienced it. And we're going towards volume 3 in the spring. And there is a sense that where we are living in these really desperate times, that I think there is a real need for people seeing what we actually can do towards creating the future that we want in a really grounded manner. And I know that Care First can help, Heart Intelligence can help, and so many of the people that I know and their initiatives can help. So we're bundling all that, but then really with the idea and the hope that this magazine can go around the planet. And that's also why we've decided to share the digital version as a gift. So everybody can read it and then invite people to make a financial contribution towards what we're doing if they would like to do that.
Beautiful. Thanks so much that you just put everything in this one piece of our conversation, but that gives a good grounding for what we are talking about here. You mentioned the heart intelligence. Obviously, as a generative leadership coach, I am also very much aware of all the research being done by heart intelligence, heart math, etc. In communities where we also work about, you know, how to bring the intelligence of the various inner brains that we have in our human setup, how to bring them in alignment with the values. And for me, heart intelligence is very much where the values are based. And in Holland, where I also have spent some time of my life, often there is a misunderstanding of the sequence. They often say about norms and then values. However, if the heart is leading, then values come first and they define the norms. So with regards to the money, if we can have that conversation going worldwide, as that is the ambition of your magazine, values are very, very important, and not just values that you put against the wall somewhere in a corporate office, but values that are actually lived. And what I really appreciated about the first edition that I had the pleasure to read thoroughly, and having a peek look into edition 2 of your magazine, I noticed what I also very much like is that it's not abstract. The way you bring it, the way you bundle the different articles is very down to earth, inviting people from all different areas of life to communicate their aspirations, really. Be that the fishermen, be that people that, young people that really want to redefine their future, and not just based on analytics and artificial intelligence, and data that you know very well as well, but really based on their living experience. And that brings me to a quote of my book, Rose Letters of Love to Life. I'm just going to read it, which is, most people are not being taught at school how interconnected everything is outside of our own existence, but just as much inside our own body. They are not being taught that we are ourselves an ecosystem. And as I listened to you, I realized again, you know, there are different layers within society, different ecosystems, different systems living next to each other, interwoven in each other. And we are not always aware of where that connection exactly happens. But money seems to be a very important energetic factor that is influential throughout the world. So how do you see that, this quote in regards to the magazine, but also your work generally over the last 20, 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, when you shared it with me for the first time, the ecosystem within, I heard something new. Volume 3, I already have a picture of what that is like. And I see this huge, really old sailing ship. And I imagine that as a ship that we create together to cross the stormy waters in all the years to come. And the question is how do we move that ship? And in my feeling and inspiration for volume 3, that is from the inside out. Well, what do we know about our inside self? And there is so much to learn. So I will have to look myself a little bit more at the ecosystem inside of myself. But I do feel that the magazine itself is almost an ecosystem in itself. There is something in me that feels, oh, okay, I need to ask that person. I need to do this. There is something moving me from the inside. Almost as if somewhere I've already seen volume 1, 2, and 3, and it's just a matter of bringing it down here. And that, of course, is then all moved by the intention to serve. So, yeah, and of course, in relationship to money, I always felt that if money begins to serve the well-being of people and the planet, naturally everything pulls together. Because in the money first consciousness, where we're doing it for our little me or for our self-preservation, quickly we separate, or we're not nice to each other with the money, and then everything quickly becomes more separate. While when money is used in the right way, again, it pulls everything together naturally.
The question that arises very spontaneously is, when I hear you like this, it's a very democratic magazine, isn't it? In the purest sense of democracy, is that we are equals. And money so often is an agent of separation. Some have a lot of money, far too much than what they can actually use in everyday life. And others are constantly struggling to have just the basics to pay some bills or buy some bread for the children. So what I'm hearing you say is that if we put care first, rather than money first, there might be some balancing act that will happen.
Totally. Yeah, what is really interesting is that the 3 elements, I think, that are moving the magazine is care first. That was really strong in volume 1. Heart intelligence in volume 2. But in volume 3 with the ship, we will talk a lot about the receiving and the sharing of the gift. So if you talk about everything that the earth provides to us all. I mean, I live in the consciousness of what I call the mother, you know, like a great presence within the earth that loves all people equally. And I feel that from that place, everyone has an equal right on food, education, healthcare, and so on. When we do workshops where people are being helped with their relationship to money, we start the workshop with not such easy questions in relationship to money, our fear, our desperation, our anger. And in almost every single workshop, when we ask people about anger, they are upset about the inequality. So why is money not a common good between us that we maneuver together to serve things? So the idea that some people have got these vast amounts of money while others are starving is really upsetting to most people that I have met. And then the crazy thing is, it is so simple from the heart to share and to share that gift with each other. So why don't we do that? And so I hope that volume 3, we will begin to stimulate that to more, the sharing of the gift. And that's also why we like to share the magazine as a gift. And if people appreciate it, they can support us.
It's beautiful. That's a very nice gesture, first of all, and then obviously it's nice to have some people read online. Most of many young people do that. Others, they are still really liking to have that magazine in their hands, to just look through it, and of course that's important. But as I hear you speak, it makes me think of Sarah McCrum. She's part of the Garden of Rose as well. She's written the book that is in the shop, Love Money, Money Loves You, and really bringing generosity back into business. That's what her work is all about.
Yeah.
And actually there is a similarity between the two of you as you go and speak about that agent that we call money, that could be an agent of love, because if we share more of it together, share the energy of money, that could be very, very sustaining and for life on earth.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I know her, we met, and I think before I got the inspiration of Care First, I had an experience in 1993 it was in 1989 that I felt I really had to come face to face with money. And with my simple approach or relationship to life, I felt if money can't be connected to love, what is it? Or if anything is not connected to love, what is it? So that was sort of in my brain or in my body. And then I had a dream in 1993 where I saw money, the energy of money, and I saw the energy of love come into the money, through which they became the same thing. And I woke up where money was becoming love and love was becoming money. It became, and I thought, what is that? And then we began to look at what that could mean. What would it mean in a bank if those two were connected? And you walk into the bank with a need. Would they help you? Or would they keep the money? What would people do? So it was a really interesting, challenging, and nice approach. So we actually were playing with that. And this money-love connection, Sandra and I have applied in our practical work with people. Because when you do a therapeutic session with somebody and they know that an hour costs 60 euros, and you've been working for an hour, but it's not done, you still feel you need another hour. If then you have to think, oh my God, can I afford the other 60 for the second hour? I didn't want people to be in that space. So I thought we just do the work. That is our love for the people. And then at the end, we ask them to make the contribution. And that's how money is then guided by love.
Beautiful. And by results, because obviously if the contribution is given by by the results that they feel and sense,
Correct.
expansion and the potential that been enlightened in them thanks to you and Sandra. That's beautiful.
And we've worked like that since the 90s and sustained ourselves in that way.
That's beautiful. That's an inspirational, actually a practice that you could do an extra workshop on that just to show people how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But another thing that came up to me is, well, often we talk about humanity in Care First and in general in conversations like that. Now we are worldwide in a situation when we know that the environmental question is big and the challenges for big mammals, but also the small insects and many microorganisms are big as well. So for me, this goes beyond humanity. That's something I wanted to add to this conversation, because it's really about how do we value the living rather than how do we value my bank account or my pocket or whatever. But do we value the dead tree, or do we value the living tree? That can be a community for insects, for birds, for mammals, you name it. So it's a question of awareness, and it's a question of consciousness as well. Where do we put our attention? Where we put our focus? And that is what the Garden of Rose is all about. And why I think this work that we are doing is so beautifully linked to each other, because it's in the same realm of consciousness and wanting to expand this heart energy that is basically the center of our being anyway. So
yeah, it's lovely. And I think what I notice that I do it with you and with others. If I hear people say things that I feel have a real value to us all, then something in me immediately wants to place that in the magazine at the right moment. Because also in volume 3, I'll talk a lot about humanity, being a global citizen, actually, being and the path of humanity as a whole. And then to bring that picture in the way that you are feeling and experiencing it would be really lovely. And that only enhances the space. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, we'll see what we can do with it in the magazine.
we will, I'm sure we will. But for now, thank you so much for this small conversation dialogue that we had. And I'm looking forward to continue our conversation online, offline, and in person. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Cécile.
Thank you.